Hello, everybody. My name is Paul Jenkins, Managing Director of UK Packaging Innovation Consultancy, ThePackHub. I'm delighted to be joined today by Nick Hardy, who is Sales Manager at Leipa Group. Nick, how are you doing today?
Good, thanks very much. Good to see you, Paul. Hello to everyone.
Excellent. Right. Really would like to know, first of all, before we talk about your company, a little bit more about yourself.
I'm a kind of time-served polymer man and flexible packaging guy. Been involved in the business for 30 years. It's, from at all stages, from polymerization, supplying resin, working for film producers, and then most recently as working with laminates for Leipa. So I've been with Leipa for about 18 months now.
18 months, excellent. Okay, and tell me a little bit more about what Leipa does then. Okay,
Leipa are a family-owned German company with a couple of sites in Germany. The main part of our business is, in actual fact, is paper recycling. So we have a couple of sites in Germany where we recycle about 1.5 million tons of paper. So it's a very big operation, and which is around 10% of the German recycled paper market. So and we turn over about 850 million euros. So we're not a huge company, but we're not a small company either. But the bit that I work for is the flexible packaging side, which is one part of their operation. I mean, as I mentioned, the main part is recycled paper, which is white test liner, magazine paper, and grey board, and that is the majority of that turnover. So, but the flexible packaging side is based in Schrobenhausen, which is in southern Germany, on the same site as one of our paper mills, and the other paper mill is up in Schwedt, up near Poland. So it's a combination of different parts of the flexible packaging business. A lot of the paper goes back into flexible packaging, but we have a specific division that I'll explain a bit more about, which is our what we refer to as FlexPack.
Okay, and I guess with everything going on, you know, we track lots of innovations in our innovation zone platform, and you know, recycling and recyclability is just the biggest area. I mean, your business must have seen changes in the market that has affected how you do things.
Yeah. No, I mean, the whole company's ethos is around sustainability, and because we're at base a recycling company, then I mean, for example, our paper mills, I mean, they generate all their own steam. They have their own energy production systems within the mills, and all of that is self-contained. But so we're part of the whole closed loop as far as paper recycling is concerned, and that has grown and grown. I mean, okay, there's limitations sometimes as far as flexible packaging is concerned with the use of recycled paper and food contact, but in general, our whole company ethos is around sustainability, being environmentally friendly, and making sure that we're working towards a more sustainable future.
Excellent. And in terms of the type of paper that you recycle, I mean, obviously you mentioned about food contact and sort of, you know, potentially the post-consumer recycled content is a challenge for food contact. I mean, where do you get your, you know, this 10%? You know, what is it? Where's it from?
It's a combination. I mean, this is not strictly my area of expertise, but it's a combination of post-consumer waste and industrial waste. So yeah, it's as far as sourcing of the recycle is concerned. We actually we take paper from all over Europe and including the UK, and sometimes as part of our overall closed loop operation. But Sarah Lesting is our UK managing director, and that's really her area of expertise. My area is more specific around the flexible packaging and recyclable products within flexible packaging. That's really my expertise. So yeah.
Okay, well, tell me a bit more about that then.
Okay, I mean, everyone's seen the general move towards recyclable packaging has been more in the news in the last 3 or 4 years than it has been in the past 20. I mean, there's although there have been moves within the UK and Europe to increase the amount of recycling that's going on and reduce the amount of single-use plastics. It's really the public perception that's changed in the last few years. I mean, partly as a result of TV programs and partly as a result of just growing awareness of environmental issues to do with single-use plastics and flexible packaging in general. And so Leipa have been developing products which meet that need. And customer, or I should say consumer demand, is very much around people wanting to have paper-based plastic, sort of paper-based packaging, and minimize the use of single-use plastics. So our developments have been to use our knowledge of paper, but in combination with our knowledge of flexible packaging as well, because our specialization as far as flexible packaging is concerned is extrusion lamination and extrusion coating. So so we have a huge and broad knowledge of polymers and of paper. So we're in a unique position in being able to put those two together. A lot of companies are either paper-based companies or polymer-based companies, and but we have that crossover. So we're able to use our paper knowledge together with our polymer knowledge to bring new products to the market, and they are aimed around meeting that consumer demand for increasing use of paper-based packaging, and more specifically recyclable paper-based packaging. And paper on its own has no functionality. I mean, it has no heat seal, it has no barrier properties. And so you have to add something to it in order to be able to give it functionality within flexible packaging. And that's where our expertise is. We incorporate different layers, co-extruded layers, to produce barrier paper and heat sealable paper in particular. But also we're working on thermoformable trays, which have a low polymer content, but have barrier properties, so they can be used with modified atmosphere packaging. So we've been working perhaps for the past 5 or 6 years and working towards having lower and lower polymer weight compared to the paper weight in order to meet some of the local regulations around in Europe, and more specifically in the UK.
Absolutely. Because I guess the whole challenge around, one of the challenges around sort of paper-based packaging is ensuring that it still obviously meets the functional requirements compared to the plastic it replaces, but also that it is still recyclable. And
exactly,
heavily polymerized sort of paper-based packaging that isn't recyclable is no good for anyone. So I guess it's a real challenge for you to develop solutions that improve the environmental footprint of the product.
That's right. I mean, within the UK, the whole recyclable flexible packaging guidelines are really being advised on by OPRL, and they've set guidelines as to whether you can single or double side coat, the level of polymer to paper content, and or even if monopolymers can be polymer structures can be recyclable as well, and encouraging people to recycle plastics. So, and because we're although we're a paper company, we have polymer knowledge. We're also in the area of producing barrier monopolymer flexible packaging as well. So it's that combination of extrusion and co-extrusion knowledge and different polymer knowledge that we bring to that. So that's the big problem with recycling, and I'm sure you've covered that in many of your discussions, is it has to be shown to be recyclable. I mean, it's okay working to a percentage polymer, but really what you want to see is that you can use that, you can just put that paper-based packaging in with your paper for curbside collection, home recycling, and know that it's actually going into the waste paper stream, that it goes into the pulp paper mill, and it can be recycled, so that the two layers, or whatever, however many layers you've got, separate. The bulk of the fiber can be recycled, and the paper which separates can also be recycled. And that's really the critical thing, is knowing that that your product is actually going into a waste stream, not will go into a waste stream in 5 years' time, but it's actually recyclable now, and the consumer can recycle it rather than having to recycle anything through stores. But it will change over time.
I mean, that's one thing we tend to hear from consumers that may be reticent about recycling any material, is that they hear these stories of packaging being exported to various markets, or being landfilled, or you know, or burnt, and they just think, well, what's the point? If I can put it in my curbside bin, but what are the chances of it actually being, you know, recycled? So I guess that's an ongoing challenge for the industry, isn't it?
Very, very much so. And I mean, the big problem within the UK and other European countries as well is how much investment is required to put the infrastructure in place in the post-consumer waste stream, in order to separate out plastics that will then allow them to be recycled. And further on from that is also to create a market for those recycled separated plastics as well, because in the past there's never really been sufficiently sized market to justify the investment. So I think the changes that are happening now, which are encouraging consumer recycling and encouraging investment into that side of the business, and encouraging people to use more polymer recycler is a good move, and it's something that we'll probably see elsewhere in Europe as well. I think Germany always leads in this area, but the UK is catching up. But the biggest issue is that there are so many different legislation rules around in Europe that trying to cover them all with a single agreement is quite difficult.
That was going to be my next question, actually, which is, you know, curbside recycling in the UK alone, there's seemingly hundreds of different sort of permutations depending on where you live, combined with what goes on in different markets in Europe. I mean, it must be a real challenge for your business to develop solutions that are as widespread and as useful as possible, knowing that in one market it will be accepted as recyclable and maybe in another it won't be. I mean, sort of how do you get around those challenges?
I mean, no matter which way you go, there's always one part of the flexible packaging industry that's upset by any introduction in changes of rules, and you can't win everything. So you have to concentrate on where your products are most easily acceptable in a marketplace. And but you're absolutely right. Is what's acceptable in Germany is not acceptable in France, or vice versa. And so we end up producing products which are not unique to individual countries, but meet perhaps one or two countries' demands, and then build on that and see if we can develop. And it's always a case of developing the next stage and anticipating what's likely to happen as far as legislation is concerned, and making sure we're aware of that, developing products which meet the next generation. So we're constantly bringing down the amount of polymer that's used, and whilst at the same time making sure that the product stays recyclable and is functional. So and it's balancing those three different issues together is always a problem.
Excellent. Absolutely. Do you have any recent sort of market introductions or examples that you can talk about?
I mean, a lot of people will have seen some of the major brands for soup and dried ingredients. Traditionally, those products would be paper on the outside and a tie layer of polythene, a barrier layer of aluminium, and on the inside it would be a polymer seal layer. And that is great package because it protected the ingredients and stopped the any oxygen ingress to which would and moisture vapor ingress, which would cause clumping or cause problems with the shelf life. And we've been able to, that product is not recyclable because it's got mixed products in it. So so you can't recycle something that's a laminate, paper, and aluminium. It's very, very difficult. So we've been able to replace that, and with some of the major brands with a paper and polymer solution. So it's a co-extruded polymer, 3-layer polymer on one side, and it's just plain paper on the other side. So that will that is already in the shops, and that's there's a number of brands will be launching on it during this year, and so that's a whole section of the supermarket shelves that are going from non-recyclable packaging to recyclable packaging.
Excellent, excellent. And I guess you've got other things that you can't quite talk about now that will be coming to fruition in the next few months. Yeah.
In particular, we produce a thermoformable tray based on paper that it has a modified atmosphere barrier layer on the top, and that will be launched with a couple of vegetable protein modified atmosphere products, and that'll be on the supermarket shelves and in the chilled cabinet later on this year as well. So again, fully recyclable.
Excellent. So obviously you serve the food sector well. And what other sort of sectors do you work in?
Well, the other areas that are interesting developments are using recycled paper for non-food packaging. So using paper with a thin layer of polythene as a heat seal for things like personal hygiene, and for things like razors and things, where they're switching from those OPP overwraps to paper-based overwraps. So it's an interesting area because, as we mentioned before, some of those recycled papers are not suitable for being anywhere near food, and but for non-food applications, that's an interesting development that's happening right now.
Yeah, that's interesting what you say, because just you mentioned at the beginning that consumer demand for paper-based products that would apply across the piece, not just for food. So
absolutely, and of course, all the major brands want to be part of that, because if they're able to reduce their polymer contents, not only are they responding to consumer demand, but they're also avoiding, in some cases, this the polymer tax that in the UK that's going to be in place next month. In actual fact, very soon.
Next month,
yeah. So that's one of the extra drivers that we have in the UK.
There are a lot of drivers for you, aren't there? I mean, a lot of externalities that change your working day on a daily basis. But,
absolutely.
I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, Nick. Thank you ever so much for the deep dive into the world of Leipa. Really enjoyed that. So how can what's the best way for people to contact you?
They can contact us through our website, which is leipa.com, Leipa, or they can email me directly at nick.hardy, Hardy, @leipa.com.
Perfect. Nick Hardy, Sales Manager at Leipa. Thank you ever so much for your time, and thank you again.
Thank you, Paul.